Hello. Our title tonight is Balancing the Scales with Emotional Intelligence for Work-Life Balance, from the bedroom to the boardroom. Are you exhausted with chasing perfectionism, but still feel like you're falling short? It's time to master your emotions. Drop the guilt, the shame, and finally balance the scales so that you can have what you need to win from the bedroom to the boardroom by taking control of your emotional intelligence. You know, perfectionism, shame, and guilt, these silent saboteurs are stealing your peace, your productivity, and your time. But what if emotional intelligence could help you balance the scales and get it all back? This whole series is believed to have been based on Proverbs 31. She was a woman who won from the bedroom to the boardroom. She was a winner. Her husband respected her, and she ran multiple businesses while she had small children. And if I can find one example in scripture that says that one woman was able to balance the scales between work life and personal life and still thrive, then I want to be able to break that down and bring it to you tonight in our Tuesday steak dinner for breakthrough moments so that you can also win at life from the bedroom to the boardroom. So, hello, winners. How you doing out there? This is Coach BU, the Breakthrough Strategist, coming to you live so that we can take this steak called emotional intelligence and we can take each sliver and we can literally get all of the juice out of this steak dinner so that we can apply it to our lives this week and see more peace, more tranquility, better relationships, less conflict, and the big P word, more productivity without stress and burnout. That's what we're here about tonight. So if you're here, let me know you're here in the chat. And Antoinette, she is ready to go. I am so excited you're here. And I am so excited to get into this topic because, if I am coming with true transparency, have not been one. If you've known me for a long period of time, emotional intelligence was not my jam. I was one who could blow a top at 20 seconds flat. I could go from happy to sad in a minute. And people used to tell me when I worked at Toshiba, they was like, Brenda, you're bipolar. I was like, I curse that at its root. I ain't nobody's bipolar, but what I am is situational. If someone's calling me to get a deal, then I am excited and we're going to get this done. If a sales rep's coming in to try to cut my commission, then we're going to have a whole different response to that situation. And so emotional intelligence is a place where I am coming to teach you from a place of learning it, not a place that I've always been there. And so when we begin to look at the areas of our lives that we need to balance, let's look at the areas that our lives are out of balance. There are so many different segments of our life, and we try to compartmentalize things, but you can't compartmentalize emotions because they are carried on the inside of you. So what you need to learn how to do is, how do I manage my emotions? How do I manage my emotions in such a way that it doesn't create an imbalance in my work and my life? If you have a huge fight with your significant other right before you go to work, tell me, how do you act when you're sitting in traffic? And if you live in Atlanta, that traffic can stress you, okay? Do you deal with the traffic the same way as when you left your significant other and you guys had a great conversation and you were really feeling good about it? Your emotions carry over. And so that's why we need to learn how to master those emotions so that we can create the work-life balance that we want. Let me tell y'all, I have been working on this for you guys all day. I've got several pages of notes that I've typed out, but I guarantee you we won't get through them all, but we are going to get through enough of this for you to get you a breakthrough for a lifetime, not just a Band-Aid for right now. So let's look at these different areas of life. And if any of these areas of life chime with you that are out of balance or need some adjustment, let's say you need an alignment in this area, then I want you to drop me an emoji and say, girl, that's me. Whatever it is, what a high five, whatever you want to put in the chat, please put it in the chat, because I want to give you tools that's going to help you win right now. Not theological thought, not philosophy. No, we are coming here to get a breakthrough for life and not a band-aid for now. So when you look at these different areas of your life, stop and really take a moment and think about, am I in balance in these areas? So one of the top areas that a lot of people find themselves out of balance is income versus debt. Anybody got more bill than you have money? Anybody got more month than you have resources? Is your income matching what you owe in debt, what you have to pay out every month? Financial freedom versus financial obligation. Work life versus leisure life. Do you feel like you never get time for yourself? It's productivity versus restorative time. Are you working hard and then thinking hard too about work when you leave? Or have you allowed yourself to decompress and have some guilt-free playtime? What about wife versus business partner? I help women win and a few good men. So most of what I'm talking about is going to speak to the females in my audience and not necessarily to the men, but I do coach a few good men. But primarily, if you partner with your husband in your business, I know I've coached several women who work in the business with their husbands. And one of the things that they tell me is it's so hard to actually be their business partner and be their wife. Emotional connection versus strategic collaboration. Those two things are balancing acts, right? When do I get my date night? Versus when we're always talking about the budget, the staff, the marketing strategy, the business strategy, right? There's a balance that has to be weighed there. And anything that is out of balance creates chaos outside and sometimes chaos on the inside. Here's another area where balance can get out of whack. Your children. How many of you guys have kids out there? If you have kids, drop me a high five. If you're on the replay, let me know you're on the replay. Leave me a comment. Let me know you've come through. But being your child's friend versus being your child's parent, there's a fine line in between that. Let me tell you when the line has been crossed. When your kid come home and say, hey, what's up, bruh? Line crossed. The line has been crossed. Somebody crossed the line. This ain't cool. I ain't your bruh. I'm your mama. Okay? You don't call me by my first name, and you don't call me bruh, and you don't call me out my name, right? Not if you want to keep a copacetic harmony in this household, right? So, but there's time when you need to be the parent. You need to be the disciplinary. But I'm going to quote Dr. James Dobson, who says that when you're parenting your kids, particularly your boys, because I'm a boy mom, your boys, there is a fine line between discipline and relationship. And where there is no relationship, the discipline creates rebellion. Again, I want to say that again. Where there is no relationship, the discipline will create rebellion. Let me give you an example of this one. We're talking about balancing being a parent versus a friend with your children, and guidance and structure versus emotional closeness. Okay, this is what we're balancing out here. I cannot tell you the amount of men that I have coached, both professionally in the workplace and professionally in my coaching business, that have come to me and say they can't relate with their daughters. Their daughters don't want to talk to them. Their daughters don't want to have anything to do with them. And it's usually around the age of 12, 13, 14, 15 that my executives, my directors will come in my office and be like, Brenda, I'm off my game. Me and my daughter, she's dating this boy. I don't like him. She tells me all I do is yell at her. And when he says that, I know that what he has with his daughter is a disciplinary relationship and not an emotional connection. Wherever there is discipline minus relationship, you're going to create rebellion. That's an automatic. Now that comes from a phenomenal book. You know, I'm a book pusher. So a phenomenal book called Raising Boys by James Dobson. If you're a boy mom out there, that book helped me raise my son into the very capable man that he is today. And I'm so thankful for Dr. James Dobson, and that small piece of that sliver that I just gave you helped me really throttle between being an authoritative parent and actually emotionally connecting with my son. That is so important for your kids. So, where's the balance between the guidance and the structure and the emotional closeness? Being the parent and the friend. Are you in balance here? Remember, we're right now, what we're going through are the different areas of life where balance or imbalance may be living. Then there is the visionary and the executor. Let me tell you what. If you are an entrepreneur, and if you are one who is a visionary, entrepreneurs are visionaries. They got more ideas than you can shake a stick at. And if you are an entrepreneur, you have all these visionary ideas, but most entrepreneurs need to be paired with an implementer, someone who is going to go out and execute the vision. Many times when we're solopreneurs, we are the visionary, the manager, planning it out, and we're the executor. But we can often get stuck in being the entrepreneur and the manager, and we forget to be the technician and actually spend enough time executing our ideas so that they're innovative and not just creative. What's the difference between creativity and innovation? The difference between creativity and innovation is creativity is the idea. But the graveyard is full of great ideas, books that were never written, songs that were never sung, screenplays that were never written. It's one thing to be creative, but innovation takes creativity and incubates it and then produces it into a finished service or product. So you need to not just be creative, you need to be innovative. And in order to be innovative, that means you got to execute. You have got to put time in executing the actions that you have visions to create. Okay. So dreaming big versus getting it done. And there is a balance in between the two. Look, let me tell you what. I shared this. I've done a lot of research lately on this past, present, and future. And I want to give you guys a formula for it because in looking at my own life and looking at the lives of the hundreds of people, maybe even on the thousands that I have coached or mentored or spiritually been their shepherd. And when I say spiritual shepherd, I'm not a minister and I'm not a pastor. And wait a minute, don't want to be. But I am a spiritual mentor to many women in the church. And so I've had lots of opportunities to get underneath the hood of people's lives. And one of the things that I've learned is that oftentimes the big dreamers don't have the implementation they need to get it done. And many times the people who are, let me get it done, let me chop, chop, chop and get it done, they don't have any vision. And so you need to balance these two things. You need to have time to think tank and be creative and all of those good things. You know, creativity needs two things. It needs peace. That means you need to be calm, emotional intelligence, being calm, and then you need execution in order to make those things come to life. So when you're being creative, you need peace and you need time to create, right? But then you need to get it done. You need to step out of the dreaming into the get it done. So can I give you a little something right here? Past, present, and future. This is what God gives all of us: past, present, and future. All of us get this same equation of life. This is how I'd like for you to slice this past, present, future up. Spend 5% of your time, 5% of your time in the past. You want to learn from the past, learning the lessons so that you don't repeat it, right? You spend 5% of your time in your past. But this is the other area. You want to spend about 15% of your time in the future. Now, the power of spending 15% of your time in your future is that you anchor your present into the future you're creating. That means you know where you're going. You know what your objective is. You know what your big goal is, right? So then you come into the present and you spend 80% of your time in the present, creating your future. One of my, I certify life coaches, and Saturday mornings from 10 to 1 p.m., I am in a marketing and coaching certification class with these beautiful women that have come along to be aspiring coaches. And with these women, one of the women said to me this weekend, and it was so good, because I'm a Christian coach. So if you sign up for my academy, we're going to talk Bible. And we're going to talk Jesus, because Jesus was the best executive coach that there will ever be in this world. Look at how he handled his disciples, how he discipled them. He asked them a lot of questions. He helped them come up to a lot of self-discovery. He didn't just tell them what to do. He helped them discover what to do. That's coaching, beloved. Mentoring is when I tell you what to do. And one of my students said to me, and it was so powerful because we were talking about going in the promised land and what does it take to get into the promised land? What does it take to bring your vision in your heart to life in your hands? And she said a powerful thing. She said, in the valley, we learn lessons that help us navigate the promised land. And so some of us are rebuking the valley and we're mad about being in the valley, but there's lessons to learn in the valley that's going to equip you to propel, to spring forward into your promised land. And so when we think about our past, present, and future, we need to spend a little bit of time looking in the rearview mirror and saying, okay, this is what that looked like. Let me tell you a little bit about the past. Remember this, Ishmael comes before Isaac. And when we live 80% of our time in our past, then we are destined to recreate our past into our future. So with Ishmael comes before Isaac, you can't always say that there's a rule or a methodology of your past, because sometimes that situation is going to look a lot like the promise with a slight mistruth. And that's Ishmael. And if we throw out every single Ishmael because of our past, we may just miss our Isaac. Can I give you a personal example? Can somebody put in the comment, yes, please give me a personal example. When I see that in the comments, then I'm going to give you a personal example of Ishmael versus Isaac. But let's keep moving until that comes along, until someone types that in the chat for me. The next area that we need to get balance on is self-care versus responsibility. Nurturing yourself versus showing up for everyone else. There's a balance. It's a teeter-totter. You are balancing scales with this, right? You can't be a people pleaser and please everybody and still show up for yourself and nurture yourself. Many of the people who are listening to this live today, you are listening to this live and you are pouring from an empty cup. And you're depleted and you're burnt out and you feel like you just can't do it, not just one more day. That is a frustration, is a telltale sign that you're operating in the flesh. You're trying to make it happen the way you want it to happen. But when you relax and let God do what only God can do, and you do everything you can do, then you can get to a place where you can also nurture yourself while showing up for other people. So Antoinette, my faithful one, she says, yes, please give a personal example. So let me give you a personal example. And hold on, let me put a mark here at where I'm at, because I got 15 areas where you need to balance your life, and we're going to give you the tools to balance it today. But Ishmael comes before Isaac. Let me give you an example. In 2013, I got engaged to a particular gentleman. He was a worship leader, a Sunday school teacher, and a deacon in his church. I thought I hit the mother lode. I finally got me a man of the cloth. Me and him could talk about that Bible frontward, backwards, upside down, turn around. When I tell you, I have never dated a man who treated me worse. Heathen men have treated me better than this man treated me. And it blows my mind that I even stayed for the length of time that I stayed. And it's funny because I thought, okay, he's a man of the cloth. I gave him a particular standard because he was a Christian, because he was a deacon, because he was a Sunday school teacher, because he was a worship leader. I gave him a little bit more grace. Flip side of that coin, what I didn't see until later on, after we got engaged. One, he was a pathological liar. He had a whole nother relationship going on in Rome, Georgia. And he would take off every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and he'd go to Rome, Georgia, because that was his church home. And he was supposedly going for worship, and he was supposedly going to prepare for Sunday service. But really, he was going to see his girl, his ex-fiance. He was going up there to see her. And in between going to see her, he was also sleeping with 3 other women that he would see on his way back to Atlanta where he worked. So he worked Monday through Friday here, got off work, go up there to go see homegirl. Well, Monday through Thursday, Friday afternoon, we would spend time together and all that. He would nurture this relationship. Then on the weekend, he would nurture the other relationship. And like I said, in between, he was sleeping with a whole bunch of women in between. Not only that, he was a functioning alcoholic. So Monday through Friday afternoon, he was sober. Friday afternoon or Friday evening until Sunday morning, he was drunk as a skunk. And I figured this out because one day my dad was a functioning alcoholic. So I can pick up on some of these things. And one day I was talking to him on the phone, and he's telling me how I'm getting ready to go and lead the choir in worship. We're going to go to worship practice and da 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 da. Like, okay, great. I said, why do you sound like you're slurring? Have you been drinking before you go to choir rehearsal? Now, I ain't judging folks that drink. I ain't got a heaven to hell to put you in, so I ain't got no judgment for you. But I thought it was kind of odd. And he said, oh, no, I just had a couple of drinks. Didn't hear from him the rest of the weekend. There was no worship choir rehearsal. That particular Sunday, his pastor was going to another church, and the whole congregation was going to a whole nother church. So he lied. And so he was a functioning alcoholic. And how do I know that, Brenda? Because right after we ended, he got his 3rd DUI. They put a breathalyzer on his truck. He couldn't even start his truck without hitting the breathalyzer. And I was like, dude, I missed a bullet. He was a functioning alcoholic, a womanizer, and a pathological liar. But he was a man of the cloth. Now, we're telling a story about Ishmael versus Isaac. If I make the judgment that all men of the cloth act the way that this particular gentleman acted, I could possibly miss my Isaac, because I said, I don't want to date no more Christian men because they all are this. And we just take a wide brush and paint all men the same way. But that's not fair to all Christian men, because not all Christian men operate the way that particular gentleman did. So my point to you is, if you always reference your past to make a decision on how you're going to move forward in your future, your past may sabotage you from actually seeing the Isaac that's in your future. So now I'm dating a man who is very spiritual, who's very grounded, who's very God conscious. I mean, if I mischaracterize him in the even slightest little bit, we got to have a conversation about it, because he wants to make sure that I know the integrity and the caliber of man he is. Just because he's a spiritual man doesn't mean that he's like my ex-fiance. He makes a point to make that crystal clear. And so if I let the Ishmael taint my view, I couldn't see the Isaac that potentially could be standing in front of me. That's what I mean by don't allow your Ishmael to taint your vision so that you can't even see your Isaac. You need to take each person at face value. What is the character that they show themselves to be? Don't trust their words, trust their actions. Love is a verb, it acts. And I'm not just talking about relationship, romantic love. I'm talking about all types of love, friendship love, romantic love, parental love. All of that is shown through action, not through words. And so be very careful that you don't allow your past to taint your vision. Like you could say, I had a bad experience with property management. I had two rental properties. I was managing them myself, and it was a nightmare, and da 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 da. And so because of that past experience, I'm never going to do property management again. Well, maybe you did it the wrong way. Maybe you did it in the wrong area. Maybe you should have hired a property management company and stop being stingy and greedy and give up that 10% to a property manager so they can handle the headaches for you, and you can just set the business up so that you just get a paycheck. How about that? How about a different strategy? Right? And so don't let your past dictate your future. Learn the lesson from it. Most of the time, the lesson was within you. I should not have let that man move my relationship with him as fast as he did. He proposed like in 3 weeks. And it was not, and everybody around me is like, don't. And so at the end of the day, beloved, if you always are referencing your past to make decisions on how to move forward in your future, then the enemy can sabotage your future steps. He can create imbalance in your emotions. He can create imbalance in your activity. He can create imbalance in your thought process. And where there's imbalance, there's always going to be chaos. So we want to be balanced in how we view our past, how much time we spend in our future, because the struggle with being very future focused is I'm a visionary. This is my problem. I'm not as bad on the past, but on that future thing, honey, I'm all in the future, honey. I done already seen, I visualize every day the 25 six-figure coaches that will be working for Breakthrough for Life in Atlanta, the 100 six-figure coaches that's going to be working with me in whatever beachfront house I'm going to get. We still trying to figure out where to move with that, because I want to be in front of a beach, but I also do not want to pay personal income taxes. So, I'm navigating some things there. But with that being said, when you're too far in the future, it's easy to live in disappointment and discouragement because it's not happening fast enough. It's not moving fast enough. You need to learn how to spend 15% of your time in the future. Where am I going? What am I doing? And then come into the present and create it. Now, this is the thing about future goals. When you have future goals, you want to be clear on the destination, but agile in the route. Do you hear me? You want to be clear on your destination, but agile in the route in which you take. Okay. So you don't want to say, well, I guess I'm just not going to run the business because I've had a hard time getting clients. No, maybe you need to go ahead and stop being stingy and hire a coach. Maybe you need to hire some staff. Maybe you need to get outside your comfort zone. Maybe you need to check your preferences, because I guarantee you your preferences are going to hinder your progress. Okay. So when you begin to look at those things, you want to stop and you want to think about it. Think about it. What do I want in my future? And then come into the present, and you keep trying like a Rubik's Cube. Keep trying strategies until you make it happen. For Breakthrough for Life, there is no plan B. Every time I entertain a plan B for Breakthrough for Life, I always get caught up in discouragement and doubt. There is no plan B. We're going to shake this salt shaker until all the salt come out of it. Being balanced in how you look at your future, but coming into the present and spending the majority of your time on strategically moving forward towards the anchor that's in your future. You can't be all in the now all the time, because then where are you going? If you haven't determined where you're going, then where you end up don't matter. So we want to be strategic. And I love to say this, and Antoinette and the people who are watching, if someone can put in the chat, God is not impulsive. He is strategic. Please put that in the chat for me. God is not impulsive. He is strategic. Okay. So Let's look at these other areas of balance: spiritual growth versus professional grind, kingdom alignment versus corporate advancement. That's another area where we can get out of balance. Like, I'm guilty. I'm an overachiever. I've been guilty of this. Now I'm not as bad, because I have hung up my cat cape of being a workaholic. But I used to work 60, 70 hours a week, sometimes 80 hours. I've pulled my last job, I pulled 3 24-hour shifts to get things done. But the thing for me, even when I worked 70, 80 hours a week for a job, I never let it impede my kingdom alignment. I always had pillars throughout my day to make sure that my spiritual growth was always on point. Because I don't know about you, but I had to overcome a whole lot of things in my life. Maybe many of you guys may not have had as traumatic a life that I had growing up with drug addicts and an alcoholic stepdad in a blended family, and all my siblings had different fathers, and my mom was a Christian, but she was legalistic, and then, lying to bill collectors. I mean, what I saw in my childhood was discombobulated. It was not balanced. All I saw was chaos. And so I think that's part of what drives me to be balanced. But there's an area where you have to protect your spiritual growth, because the devil is going to work hard to keep you out of balance. Too much of anything can be a problem. I drink gallons. I used to drink a gallon of water a day. Well, when I lost 60, 75 pounds, I couldn't drink that same water. I started getting lightheaded. I thought I had vertigo. I'm thinking, oh my goodness, what's going on? I'm faint. And my doctor's like, you ain't got no sodium in your body. How much water are you drinking? I thought, well, water's good for you. You can't drink too much of it. Yes, you can. You can drink too much of it. Trust me, I know. Too much of anything creates chaos. So let's get some balance, right? And now we're going through the 15 things to help you identify the area that you need to create balance, right? Spiritual growth versus professional grind, public persona versus private identity, leader image versus authentic self. That's what we're talking about here. Your image as a leader. You know what? You can't pour your heart out to your staff about your problems in your marriage and with your kids and all that stuff. That's private. And I want to share something, because we have a lot of social media envy. And let me tell you what, everybody puts cliff notes on social media. Everybody does. And it's none of your business what's going on in people's personal lives. Some things do need to be private. You don't need to use Facebook as your therapist and spew all of your passive aggressive feelings about your family members and your staff members and your co-workers and your boss. Some of that stuff needs to be private. Now, some of that stuff you may want to call out every once in a while, but when you find yourself emotionally throwing up on social media, there's a problem. When you find yourself feeling bad because you're looking at how other people are living their lives and you say, but I'm not living like that. Hey, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes. My mom used to tell me all the time, you don't know what's going on in another woman's home until you live there. So don't compare yourself one to another. There's a public persona we all have, and then there's a private identity that we all have. There are certain things that I do in my home that I'm never sharing with another single solitary person. Period. It ain't none of your business. Me and my son know what goes on in that home, and it's nothing bad, but it's just certain things that I do. Like my son, I asked him when he got older, please don't have other people in my house. And this is the one thing that I'm gonna share. Because I leave my mail all over the house. Wherever I pick my mail up and I needed to pick something else up, the mail may be right there on the counter. It may be right there in the laundry room. It may be right there on the vanity. I leave my mail all over the place. And so if there's other people in my house, they could see my credit card statements. They could see my bank statements. They could see all that stuff. Someone's going to say, Brenda, go electronic. I don't do electronic. If I could be audited on it, I need some paper, because electronic can fail you. You cannot gain access to that website anymore. You may not have forgot to download something. You may lose access to your email, may get hacked. All of that stuff. I don't do electronic bills on anything that I have to verify to the IRS. Send it to me in paper so that I can make sure I'm always covered. Okay. So because of that reason, I don't like to have a lot of people in my home. And if I do have a lot of people in my home, I know go clean up and find out where all the mail you done left all over the house. Okay. So there's certain things that I do in private that I'm not sharing with everybody. It's not that it's bad, it's just none of your business. And all of us should have some none of your business stuff. You shouldn't be an open book to everybody. Not everybody's earned that right. Not everybody's earned the trust to know everything that's going on in your life. Knowing when to be emotionally restrained and emotionally free so that you don't get caught up in your confidant telling their confidant all your business under the guise of prayer. Oops, I stepped on a toe. Let me leave that one alone. I'm going to leave that one alone. We're going to leave that one alone, okay? Because God is not impulsive. He is strategic. There is a balance to everything in your life. There is empathy versus assertiveness. This means a compassionate leadership versus bold decision making. Now, this is what I'm working on, y'all. I'm assertive. I'm a bottom line. Let's get to the bottom line. Let's make it happen. Let's da 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 da. And then I struggle a little bit with being a compassionate leader because I'm like, everybody got an excuse. There's always a reason why you can't do something if you don't want to do it. If you don't want to do it, you can always find an excuse. But if you really want to do it, you'll figure it out, right? That's how I think. Because for me, that's how it works. If I really want to do something, I don't make no excuses. There's no reason why I don't do it. But if I don't want to do something, there's 110 reasons why not to do it. I've had 2 people very close to me die in the past 3 weeks. I could have just shut down and said, and one of them, both of them were very close to me, but one of them, the way she died really just ripped my heart out. That would have been a good excuse, and most people would have said that's a reasonable reason not to show up. Everybody grieves differently. But you know what? I'm one of those people. I'll grieve in my personal time. I'm showing up for what God's called me to. I'm showing up for work. I'm getting things done. I am moving forward. And I'll grieve when I get home. I'll cry about it when I get home. Because guess what? No matter how much I stop my life, my dear friend B and my cousin Key, they still dead. And if I stop my life, I can die with them too and still be breathing. But I can't stop my life because my life has a purpose. It has a calling on it. And so I got to keep showing up. Empathy versus assertiveness. You need a balance between the two. There needs to be a balance between being compassionate leadership and versus bold decision making. Now let's go to the next one. Number 10, ambition versus peace. Chasing the goal versus content in the present. Woo, that one is a balancing act, isn't it? I don't know about you, but that one can be a serious balancing act. How do you stay ambitious, chase the goal, be on the grind, but also have peace and be content where you're at? That one's going to require the Holy Spirit. Because the way that I've learned to balance it, because I am very ambitious, I balance it with gratitude. And I don't like to talk about gratitude a lot because a lot of people talk about gratitude, and I don't want to be the cliche coach. I'm the custom coach, right? But gratitude is so important to keep you at peace. And so gratitude helps you stay grounded. I'm thankful that I have an office to come to. I'm thankful that I can beat to my own drum. I'm thankful. That helps me be content in the present moment as I'm reaching for the prize set before me in Christ. And I'm pressing forward towards that goal. Ambition versus peace. That's a balancing act. Family time versus legacy building. That's number 11. Being present now versus creating generational impact. Okay. And the way I handle this one is time blocks. My son, he knows Sunday after church, we're going to go to church together 9 times out of 10. We're going to go out to eat. We're going to have some fun. We're going to hang out. My son is much older. He's in his mid-20s now. And so, he ain't hanging out with mama all day like he used to. But it used to be we'd be together all day on Sunday and we'd hang out and go to the movie and play video games and do all kinds of things. He always has had his dedicated time with his mom that he knows I'm not looking at my cell phone. I'm not planning my next meeting. I'm not thinking in my head mentally somewhere else. I am present with him in that moment. And so there is block time that can help you manage that balance, because then legacy building, I have a certain time where I sit and I think about where do I want to go in the future, and I pray about it and I get with God and I submit my plans unto the Lord, because he said if I will submit my plans unto the Lord, he will guide my way. Okay. And then number 12 is delegation versus control. Trusting others versus doing it all. Solopreneurs, are we control freaks? Okay, I'm talking to all the control freaks out there. Look, I have no judgment for you. Control freak was put into the Webster Dictionary in 1971, the same year I was born. So we know I have worked through for years and still got probably some time to go in working through controlling everything and doing it all myself versus delegation and trusting others. I said today I met with my VA, and we were talking about my Spring Forward program that is a little late coming out, but it's coming out. And it's a Spring Forward program. When we were talking about that, and I said, Brenda, you know what you have got to put into your schedule? Time to manage your team. Manage my marketing coordinator, manage my VA, manage my assistant, manage my other employees. I have to take time to manage it, right? Because they still need me. But in order to delegate to them, I have to trust them. So I need to train them well enough that I can trust them to make a decision on my behalf. But if I want to control it all, then I'm going to be a solopreneur forever. Someone please write this in the chat for me. Success is a team sport. Success is a team sport. You need a team to create the success you want in your organization, the success you want in your side hustle, the success you want in building your legacy. There needs to be people who are better gifted than you are, that you partner with, that you collaborate with, that you bring into your community so that you can have a synergy of expertise, pushing you forward, pulling you out of your comfort zone, taking you into the unknown, but you trusting God that if it's his vision, he's going to provide all the resources and all the provision you need. Number 13, perfectionism versus excellence. Flawless execution versus powerful progress. Flawless execution can be a mean taskmaster, but powerful progress can always operate with excellence. And so here again, when we are looking at our lives, we have to understand that we need to trust ourselves and trust those around us in order for us to operate in excellence versus perfectionism. Perfectionism is always going to make you feel like you're not good enough, you didn't measure up, you didn't get it done. So if you're here and if this is speaking to you, please drop something in the chat and let me know which one of these do you struggle with balancing. Number 14, people pleasing versus purpose-driven living. Okay. People pleasing comes out of a need to be validated by other people. That means that you are struggling with some level of self-worth and self-confidence, because sometimes you're going to say no to others so that you can say yes to your purpose, yes to your vision, yes to your dream. You can't please everybody. And so there comes a time where you have to really ask yourself, when am I going to show up for me and when am I going to show up for others? People pleasing says, I'm going to set myself on fire so everybody else can stay warm. Because you're seeking approval, you're seeking validation outside of yourself. And if you struggle with that, I want you to get this one phrase in your knower. I am validated by the blood of Jesus and the blood of Jesus alone. This is another statement you can get in your knower. I had worth before I had birth. I had breath, which determines my worth. Just the fact that I breathe determines I'm worthy. Christ thought I was to die for. So I'm worth showing up for. So I'm so happy you're here. If you've come in the halfway point, then please, we're going down through the list of things that need balancing in life. Okay. So if something hits you, stop and say, this is an area that I have to stop and say, where am I out of balance? And how do I get in balance? Now, purpose-driven living means I stay on assignment. That means that I'm going to say necessary no's to anything that pulls me out of alignment with my purpose. And then 15, yes to others versus yes to yourself, which is a lot like number 14, which is people pleasing versus purpose driven living. 15, yes to others versus yes to yourself. Yes to others means you're sacrificing your needs versus protecting your peace. So sometimes you need to say yes to others, but sometimes you're going to need to say yes to yourself so that you can fill your tank up. Your love tank can be filled up and you can thrive. Breakthrough for Life is all about helping people heal, grow, and thrive. That's what we're all about here at Breakthrough for Life. And so you have to stop and take an assessment on these 15 different areas of life. And you may have other areas. These are the 15 I came up with that you need to get a recalibration. Do you need a front-end alignment on your work-life balance? Do you need to adjust your work-life balance from the bedroom to the boardroom? These are 15 areas that you can take a moment right now. Stop this video if you're watching the replay. I'm not going to pause for those that are watching live, but if you're watching the replay, stop this video and look at these 15 areas, and I'm going to go through them like Spitfire so that you can capture them all. Income versus debt, work versus leisure, wife versus being the business partner, parent versus friend, visionary versus executor, executing your task list, not people, self-care versus responsibility, spiritual growth versus professional grind, public persona versus private identity, empathy versus assertiveness, ambition versus peace, family time versus legacy building, delegation versus control, perfectionism versus excellence, people pleasing versus purpose driven life, and yes to others versus yes to yourself. 15 areas for you to take a look at and see, where am I out of balance? So what are the areas of life where you're out of balance? Take a moment and think about it. And let's get specific, y'all. Let me be 100% with you. Change doesn't happen on the surface level. If you just go chop off, just mow your lawn, you're going to cut all your weeds down. But what grows faster in your lawn? Your grass or your weeds? Your weeds. Your weeds is what grows faster. So get deep. Dig deep, really assess these 15 areas. And if you would like to have a tool that will help you assess those, then I'm going to need you to DM me on whatever platform you're watching me on. We're going live on 5 platforms right now. YouTube, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook business page. So those are the 5 places I'm going live. Send me a DM if you want the tools to assess your work-life balance in these 15 areas. DM me now, and I will make sure that my assistant sends you an assessment that you can utilize so that you can really evaluate yourself in these areas. Now, let's talk about digging into those roots. When you dig into the roots, when you cut your grass and then you get out there, for me, I get out there and I put chemicals on my yard because I don't have no animals. But in the old days, we used to get out there and we would dig up the roots of the weeds so we make sure that they don't grow back. So I'm going to challenge you to dig deep. Dig deep into what's not balanced in your life so that you can stop and ask the Holy Spirit to help you calibrate it. Recalibrate my life in this area so that I can live a life of balance, because where there is balance, there is peace. So let's talk about what we've been talking about this whole time is emotional intelligence. So emotional intelligence, what is it? I remember the first time I heard it was with one of my clients, Teresa Devine. She was doing um, a seminar over at Quest, and I went to support my client. And she was talking about emotional intelligence. And I was like, I've heard of it, but I really didn't dig into it. And this was like at least a decade ago. But let me explain to you what emotional intelligence is so that we know where we're coming from. And if you have any questions, please put your questions in the chat. I would love to answer questions live. I want to make sure that you guys are getting what you need from this. So when we look at emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, understand, and manage your own emotions. I got an F in that for a long time in life, while also being able to perceive and influence the emotions of others. Let me tell you, I could go from 0 to 60 in 2 seconds flat, honey. Hot tempered, easily agitated. I mean, I was that person. Now I'm very calm when I get mad. Matter of fact, you can almost tell how mad I'm getting by how quiet I get, because now I don't pop off at the mouth anymore. I get real calm. I really stop and I think, who do I want to be in this moment of conflict? In this moment of tension, who do I want to be? It's called the gap. It's called the gap. Instead of reacting to situations, you want to learn how to respond to situations. And that's a Stephen Covey concept, the gap. You stop and you ask yourself, who do I want to be in this moment? Or do I want to be a hothead? Do I want to give full vent to my anger? A foolish man gives full vent to his anger, but a wise man stays calm. I've learned how to stay calm when I'm agitated. Now, unfortunately, I'm dating somebody who can read me like a book, and I can't even hide anything. But at the end of the day, what it looks like is not being emotionless. It doesn't mean you kill all emotional responses. It means that you are emotionally wise. That means you're calibrated. It means you respond. It means that you don't pop off. You don't lose your temper. You stop. And let me tell you one thing that has always helped me stop and realize that no matter how this turns out, it's going to work for my good, is the belief that Jesus is always working for my good. No matter what it looks like, I am going to land on my feet because I place my hope and my faith in the eternal one who created the universe. I don't worship the universe. I worship the creator of the universe. The one who created the universe is the one who I anchor my hope in. And because he is all knowing and omnipresent and omnipotent, he's all powerful. I know that I am his handmaiden and he is working things out for my good. So let me be clear. Emotional intelligence is not about being emotionless. It's about being emotionally wise. Emotional intelligence fuels better relationships, stronger leadership, and balanced decision making. Let me tell you, you never want to make a decision when your emotions are running high. You want to make logical emotions, process your emotions, feel whatever you're feeling, but don't let it spill out into a decision. Calm down. I hear my friend Joy Sutton. She helped me launch my podcast a couple years ago, and we've been on this relaunch journey for a while. But Joy would always tell me, Brenda, don't make an emotional decision. You'll regret it. Process your emotions. When you're calm, make a logical decision. And so that's what we all have to do every day is be calm and make logical decisions. Don't run from your emotions, embrace them, process them, sit with them. Everything doesn't need an answer immediately. Some things you need to sit on and you need to chew on so that you can respond instead of react. Emotional intelligence is the secret weapon for achieving sustainable work life balance, beloved, especially for high achieving professionals like my audience. When we look at emotional intelligence, we need to look at being self aware. It helps us recognize the imbalances. Like, for instance, when you're dealing, I'm a highly structured person. I have blocks of time for all of my time. When I deal with someone who is real flowy, you know, it's difficult for me because I try to manage my time around the blocks of time when I'm dealing with other people, right? And so real flowy kind of throws me out of whack because I want to keep my word. But I've learned that if someone told me, I remember I lost a friend because she wanted me to come and anoint her home. And we said that we was going to do it right after church. I was going to come after church and anoint her home. This is when I was going to church at Free Chapel Worship in Gainesville. I now go to a different satellite campus, but at Free Chapel Worship Gainesville. So I was going to go over to her house and I was going to anoint her home after service. Well, she decided that she was going to take her kids out to eat first. And then they had a practice. She was going to go drop them off. And it was going to be 3 or 4 hours later that I was going to be able to have access to come and anoint her home. Guess what she got? I can't make it because I planned on going from Gainesville to Flowery Branch, anoint your home, and coming home and spending time with my own son. But you wanted to move it around being flowy, so you missed that opportunity. She got mad at me, told me that I was inflexible and inconsiderate, and a few other choice words that she called me. And we haven't been friends since then. And this was before I launched my business. So this is almost 12 years ago. Now, we've talked here and there from time to time, but because she decided to change the timeline and I couldn't accommodate her, I lost a friend. But my priorities is what determines my work-life balance. One, anybody who knows me knows I don't like driving all over town. That's one. Two, I'm going to make a priority for God and I'm going to make a priority for my family. And I'm not going to break my word to my son because in the last minute you decided to go left instead of go right. I'm not mad. I'm not upset. I just can't help you because the time block I gave you to help you, you changed it, thinking that my schedule is just willy-nilly. It's not. I do not have a willy-nilly schedule. I want to help people, but when people are real flowy and I'm very structured, it makes it hard for me to keep my word. So emotional intelligence is saying, let me be self-aware in this situation. Now, I could have tried to accommodate her and then I would have been emotionally imbalanced. I would have been mad, agitated, and that's not the countenance that I need to be in when I go to anoint somebody else's home. I need to be at peace. I need to be connected. So when we're thinking about emotional intelligence, the first thing is you need to get in tune with your internal signals of stress, fatigue, frustration before they become burnout. Instead of pushing through, you pause, reflect, and recalibrate. An example, you notice you're snapping at your team, not because you're angry, but because you're overwhelmed. That awareness is the first step in restoring balance. So I know we hear a lot about self-awareness, but you need to get self-awareness because most of us are surface. We're just scratching the surface of things. We're not getting to really what's going on the inside of us. What are those signals of fear telling you about you? Maybe God wants to deliver you from that fear, but you keep running from the fear, never addressing the fear, so he can never dig it up from its root so that he can plant faith seeds in your heart so that fear doesn't self-sabotage. Self-awareness is key, beloved. Understand what's going on the inside of you. Process it, journal it, talk it through with a coach, talk it through with a mentor, talk it through with a therapist, but definitely take time to process what's going on the inside of you. Antoinette, I know you're still here because she always stays to the very end. Thank you so much, Antoinette. Can you put this in the chat for me? Hey, Nadia, I'm so glad you're here. Antoinette, if you could put this in the chat for me, I'd like for you to put in the chat that balance requires intentionality. Balance requires intentionality. So if we are going to be self-aware, we have to understand this other thing. This other thing that we need to understand is that unprocessed pain creates poison in the soul. Unprocessed pain creates poison in the soul. Processed pain releases the soul. So you need to process your pain in order to release your soul from the captivity of that pain. Otherwise, it's going to create suffering. And suffering is optional. We're all going to encounter pain, but you don't have to suffer. So processed pain releases the soul. Unprocessed pain creates poison in the soul. Process your pain, process your emotions through self-awareness. Because when you're looking at creating balance in your life, it is going to require intentionality. Thank you, Antoinette, for being my star note taker. This is the second thing when we're looking at emotional intelligence and creating it, we want to self-regulate. Keep emotions from running the show. When you can manage your emotional responses, you're less reactive and more intentional with your time and energy. You stop defaulting to yes out of guilt and start choosing what aligns with your priorities. Have you ever had someone guilt you into doing stuff? They shame you into doing stuff? I'm going to tell you, Catholicism, that's a guilt shame place. There's a lot of guilt and shame that comes with that, Catholicism. And so when you begin to look at Catholicism, a lot of people have learned how to shame you into doing stuff, how to guilt you into doing stuff. But those are things from the enemy. If God doesn't require you to serve him out of shame and guilt, why are you serving others out of shame and guilt? When we look at shame and guilt as being the reasons why we do what we do, shame is a deeply painful feeling that you are inherently flawed or unworthy, not enough. It will cause you to withdraw in secrecy and reluctance to seek support or take risk. Shame whispers who you are is the problem. And it often leads to hiding, self-sabotaging, or people-pleasing. When people shame you and you know, if you were really a good daughter, you would do this for me. And then you start thinking, well, am I really a good daughter? You know what? I really didn't show up for her when she had that last surgery. Okay, so now she's guilted me into doing something that's not in alignment for me, right? And so when you begin to look at being guilted into something, that's an emotional discomfort you feel when your actions or inactions go against your values or expectations. So you have to really look at balancing your life requires a priority to your life ambitions, goals, and values. But you can't let people guilt you into things or shame you into things. Because if you do, you're out of alignment with your own values, with your own goals, with your own priorities. So an example of self-regulating your emotions is instead of people pleasing or overcommitting, you calmly say no without over explaining. Now, there's a playlist for the work-life balance. You want to go and look at the one that's titled Saying No, the Power of No. Because no is a complete sentence. You don't always have to do every single thing that people ask you to do. But if you feel guilt and shame, or you feel like you're not worthy, or you feel like you have to get the validation of other people in order to feel whole and worthy, then guess what? You're going to always be people pleasing. Okay. Next to emotional intelligence is empathy, strengthens boundaries and relationships. High emotional intelligence allows you to understand others without taking responsibility for their feelings. I'm helping someone right now. Actually, I'm helping multiple people right now in their businesses, not as a coach, but there's two businesses that I am financially invested in. And I could literally take on all of the burden of these businesses on my shoulders, but I've learned not to do that. I give what I can give and let them run the ball. They are 51% owners, and one of them, he owns the majority of his business. I am a very small part in the shareholding of his business, but those are their responsibility. I'm here to help with the availability that I have. But I have no problem saying, no, I can't meet on that day. Nope, I have clients on that day. No, I have a meeting, a live that I do every day at 7:30 on Tuesday. So I'm not available to help. That's balance, y'all. I don't take the burden. People think I do. I don't. I don't know why people think I take on other people's burdens. I don't. Let me tell you, I go to my prayer closet every night and I release all. Look, I'm one of those prayer warriors. I get on my face before God, on my knees. And in that posture of being on your knees, you roll off all the burdens of everybody else, all of the burdens of other people. I'll roll them off my back and onto Jesus's feet, because that's where those burdens go. I'm not the fourth Godhead. I'm not Holy Ghost Jr. I'm not the end all be all. I can't fix everything, but I know one who can. And I call on him all the time on behalf of my clients. Every single one of my clients fills out a form that tells me a little bit about their lives. And I pull those forms out and I pray. I lay my hands on them and I pray for my clients to get breakthroughs. I pray for my clients to get witty ideas so they can create massive change in this earth. But it's up to them to execute. They don't execute, that's up to them. I don't carry the burden. And if you are a caregiver, if you are one who gives a lot, you need to learn how to give and not take on the burden. Release it. I don't carry people's problems with me because my problems are enough, and I try not to carry my own problems. So you want to have empathy, strengthening boundaries, and relationships. But you also don't need to carry other people's burdens on your back. I need you to get that. Because my people pleasers, you guys are carrying other people's burdens on your back. And it's not for you to carry. It's for Jesus to carry. And if you don't believe in Jesus, whatever you believe in, Buddha, Allah, whatever, all of them have some element of believing that their God loves them. I just happen to believe that Jesus is the supreme God. His word says in Psalms that he is God of gods. So all the other ones are demigods, but he is the major God in my eyes. I'm not going to argue the point with nobody. I respect your right to believe whatever you want to believe, but I hope you respect my right to speak what I want on my channels. And this is a Christian coach, and I'm going to talk about Christian concepts and truths. And I cast my cares upon the Lord who says who cares for me. Okay. Show compassion without sacrificing your own needs, time, and peace. I told one of my other business partners, she was texting me a whole bunch of stuff while I was off. I didn't respond to any of her texts about business. Monday, I'm off. unless I told you I'd work on the business on Monday. So I sent her a text when I came into work today, and I said, hey, my next block of time for that particular business is on Friday, and I will look at all of your emails, all the stuff you sent me on Friday when it's the block of time to work on that business. Because if I don't do that, I can't run multiple businesses. I will get all out of whack. I'll get overwhelmed. I'll get frustrated. And then I will shut down and I'll start burning out. Now, did I like sending her that text today? No, I would have, oh, people pleasing Brenda would have been like, hurry up and go at least answer her stuff. But that would have probably taken an hour to 2 hours out of my day, which was already planned. Block time. Making sure that you schedule your priorities, making sure you give yourself guilt-free playtime, making sure you feel good about each and every day is emotional intelligence. Boundaries. I set a boundary for my business partner. I had to do one today with my other one. I was like, look, you swinging by. Look, you come at 7:30. I'm not going to even be able to open the door for you. Well, it doesn't matter because, anyway, I'm not going to even be able to open the door for you. Right? Boundaries. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be ugly with it. You just have to be clear to communicate it. Okay. Another way that you get emotional intelligence is better communication reduces stress at work and at home. When you express your needs clearly and respectfully, you avoid miscommunication and the tension that drains you. I'm real big on communicating. If I tell someone, like I have another friend of mine, and I'm gonna call him out, Badale. He is a flowy dude. I automatically know if he say he gonna be there at 9 o'clock, he ain't showing up till 9:30. I automatically know, and I just plan for it because I've been dealing with him for so many years. But he also knows that if you don't communicate, you running late for me, I'll be gone. I'll leave. I'll go do, like there's been several times in our 10 years of friendship where I have said, he's like, hey, let's go do da 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 da. And I'm like, cool, I'm down. And then he took too long and he's like, you going? I'm like, no. I mean, I wanted to go at like 3:30. I'm not trying to go at 7 o'clock. And you didn't communicate with me, so we just can't go. I'm just not going to go. You can go, but I'm not going to go. That's called communicating. Because when you don't communicate, then it creates stress. And that's the same at work. You need to make sure that you are communicating the expectations to your staff, that you're communicating the deadlines to your staff, that you communicate in such a way that they get it. We often think just because we said it, they got it, but just because you said it don't mean they got understanding. Does not mean the communication took place. Okay. You avoid miscommunication and the tension that drains you when you're crystal clear on your expectations, what your boundaries are, and where you sit. And then be true to it. Let me tell you something about boundaries. It's nobody else's responsibility to respect your boundaries. It's your responsibility to uphold your boundaries. Now, I am thankful that a lot of the people in my world, they respect my boundaries. If I tell them I had something to do, then they are like, okay, you said you had something to do at 7:30. A friend of mine stopped by to drop something off, and at 7:29, he was dotting the door. He was like, I'm gone because you have something to do at 7:30. And those type of people get a lot more access to me. People who I have to keep telling you what my boundaries are, you get less access to me because that tells me you're disrespectful. I'm not going to get mad at you because you're disrespectful to my boundaries. I'm just going to create a boundary that pushes you out towards the fence a little further. You see how that works? When people disrespect your boundaries, you don't have to cut them off, just distance. We're still friends. I still love you, but you can't respect my timelines. You can't respect my boundaries. You can't communicate when you're running late. Like my business partner, one of my business partners, she get mad at me because I'm always running 5 or 10 minutes late. Okay. And I wish that I didn't, but I always anticipate that I can get more done in an hour than I actually can, especially when you're a 9 a.m. or a 10 a.m. appointment. That's why I don't see my clients till 11 because I know I'm going to be in that office by 10. And so, And so she gets frustrated with me. And so I kind of like, look, I'm trying my best. I'm trying to fit this into an already 60-hour work. I mean, already 50 to 60-hour work week. I'm trying my best. So you can either give me some grace or we cannot meet. And we can just communicate via telephone on the whim, or we can communicate via email. If me being 5 minutes late, I can't get a 5-minute late grace. Okay. I'm respecting her boundary. I shouldn't be late, but sometimes I'm going to run late because I'm trying to get a lot done. I'm running 3 businesses, plus I'm coaching a group of people. So I need a little agility. I need a little grace. If you can't give it to me, I respect your boundary. Then let me change how we interact with each other. It's that simple for me, because I'm not going to get stressed out when I go down a road and they shut it down because they're repaving it and I didn't know. And now I'm like, oh God, they're going to get so mad at me. I communicate. I will text and say, hey, I'm running late. And if I get a snarl every time that happens, then guess what? Matter of fact, let's just, instead of meeting at this time, let's meet at this time. So that way I know I am more than clear. You see what I mean? You see what I'm talking about? Communicate so you can reduce stress, both at work and at home. And make sure that they got it. An example of that is you don't let frustrations build. You speak up early, resolve issues quickly, and move forward with peace. When I tell you, my male friend, he is a wonderful example of this. If there's something going on with us that's off tilt, he won't let me move any further because I'll just sweep it under the rug for a little while until I can process it. He's like, nope, let's talk about it right now. Let's get it out. Let's deal with it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to being able to say, hey, we'll talk about it later. And most dudes just let me go on about my business. And then I'll come back and talk about it when I'm ready. He's one who he is emotionally intelligent. He is much further along on this road than I am. And he wants to deal with it right away. But even then, I have to tell him, hold on, let me process what I'm feeling so that I can show up the way I want to show up for you. Is that fair? Better communication. And this is the last one we're going to cover today. Next week, we're going to cover a different one. Hey, Deborah, it is so good that you're here. I am so glad to see you. It's awesome seeing what you're doing in the earth. This is one of my certified coaches, Deborah Franklin. If you're looking for a coach to help you get your book, I think she's still doing that jam. Get your book published. Deborah Franklin, she's got the connection, she's got the process, and she knows the real deal. And since she's a certified coach, she knows how to help you get out of your own way so you can get that book published. So that's my plug for Deborah Franklin. I'm so glad that you are here. Look, put in the chat what you're focused on now, because this one right here, she's a visionary. She's all over with ideas and innovating and all that. So let me know what you're focused on, Deborah, so I can give you a shout out. So let's move on to number 5. Because I'm even way past my overpass. I usually go an hour 15. It looks like we're going to go an hour 30. So purposeful decision-making prevents overload. Okay. Purposeful decision-making prevents overload. What you need to understand about this, one, we can all get better at decision-making. All of us can. Okay. Critical thinking is not something that we're taught much these days. And we really do need to cultivate that as a self-learning process. Okay. So when we look at emotional intelligence, helps you align decisions with your values. Your values and your priorities and your goals should run your decision-making. All of it, not some of it. Not your emotions in the moment. This creates clarity and consistency in both personal and professional choices. This creates clarity and consistency in both personal and professional choices. You do not want your decisions to be based on an emotion. If my decisions were based on emotions, me and my male friend wouldn't be together now, because I go all over the place with him. But because I come back and I always get grounded, then I can make informed, logical decisions. Remember, I mentioned that earlier, so that I can make decisions based on the alignment of my values, my priorities, and my goals. Okay. So, an example of this is you don't say yes to every opportunity, you say yes to the right opportunity. You say yes to the right opportunity. Oh, I covered all of them. Oh my gosh. We're not going to have a part two. I'm going to have to come up with another topic for next week. Y'all going to have to help me out. So let me tell you, at the end of the day, the bottom line comes down to this. Emotional intelligence is what keeps ambition from becoming anxiety. Can somebody write that in the chat for me? Emotional intelligence is what keeps your ambition from becoming anxiety. It empowers you to lead yourself first so you can show up fully in every space without sacrificing your sanity, your soul, or your sleep. So I like to leave a personal example to the very end. And the reason why I leave this to the very end, because I want you to know that I'm here to show up for you, not just to share my personal journey with things. But I'm going to tell you honestly, y'all, my ambition had created a serious amount of anxiety for me, particularly in 2024. I had taken on two other businesses as a personal investment outside of my own main slice of bread. And let me tell you, Breakthrough for Life ain't going anywhere. Breakthrough for Life is my God calling and my God gifting. And I took on a lot, and I was ambitious because I felt like, Breakthrough for Life is 11 years old. We got good systems. I got good staff. I got a good team. Then I can take on and start building some of these other businesses on a personal level of investment, not just on a coaching level. On a coaching level, I give you the schematics. We get together, we put together your strategy to take your business to the next level, or your career to the next level, or your personal life, for you to break through those boundaries so that you can craft a life you can fall in love with. And every day, not just some days. And I felt like that was really streamlined. I had my life sheets, I had my protocol, I had my automations and all that set up. And I felt like I could take on two other businesses. And that ambition created so much anxiety. I'm going to share something with you that a lot of coaches won't share, because a lot of coaches won't tell you their most recent battle. But I'm going to tell you a most recent battle. I started to see the ugly headed depression show back up. And it created havoc in my personal relationships. It created havoc in my financial situation. It created havoc in my emotional situation. And I was like, oh my goodness, maybe I bit off more than I can chew. And that ambition created anxiety because I did not exercise the emotional intelligent tools that I had in my toolbox. You can have tools, but if you never use them, they don't build nothing. And so depression started to rear its ugly head. And I started to fall back into something that that I had struggled with and thought it was over with 26 years ago. And so I stopped and I started to dig deep into what is shame, what is guilt, what is perfectionism, what is excellence? Why am I feeling like the wheels are falling off the cart? Why am I so emotional? Why is my personal relationships going like topsy-turvy? Except for, I have a solid 5, and I'm going to call their names: Kim, Gail, Joy, Lasagna, Devin. My solid 5, them solid 5, no matter what goes on in my world, they are my stabilizers. They are my stabilizers. That solid 5, they've been in my world 20 something years. One of them didn't have no choice because I gave birth to him. So he's been in my world 26 years. But that solid 5, I went to them and I told them what I was struggling with, and they helped me to get recalibrated, to remember who I was, to take my power back. And I'm telling you, 2024 took me for a ringer because my ambition got far ahead. of the tools that I was using. And so I don't want anybody else to fall into that trap, because you may think that you've done with something, but the right atmosphere will cause that something to rear its ugly head. And let me tell you, I came with a vengeance this year. I said every Tuesday at 7:30, I'm going to equip people with what they need to get a breakthrough for life and not a band-aid for now, because life is too short for us to be living chaotic, broke, busted, and disgusted. Life is too short for us to be struggling with chaos. And so I come every Tuesday, rain or shine, funerals or no funerals. I show up every single Tuesday at 7:30 so that I can give you a steak dinner to help you win at life, so that you don't have to go through the battles that I fought, so that you don't have to fight the demons that I've had to slay, so that you can get the tools to put in your toolbox so that you can live a life that you can give God glory for, so that you can live a life that is a winning life. And sometimes you go into the pit, and sometimes you go into the valley, and sometimes it gets hard, and sometimes you need your 5 solids to pull you back out. We all need somebody. And so I'm coming to you today, beloved, and I really, really want you to understand that just because you have a slip doesn't mean you have to have a fall. Just because it got hard doesn't mean you have to live in hard. Just because your ambition has created anxiety doesn't mean that you need to live there. And so I want to thank you guys for spending an hour and a half with me. And I want to give Deborah, this woman right here, she's a trooper. I admire her. I love her. I love her hustle. I love what she represents. You can go to my YouTube channel, Breakthrough with Brenda, and you can see where I coached her. I think we split her coaching session up into 2 podcast sessions. Into 2 podcast sessions. But Deborah Franklin is a phenomenal woman of God, and she is doing publishing. She is still doing publishing. She says, yes, I'm still doing publishing. And so let's read this one. We are rebranding the publishing company to assist to make bestseller and expanding bestsellers and expanding our mission projects to Kenya. Yes, that's awesome. You're international now. I love it. Can you believe we are celebrating 5 years of service? Where's my maracas? I am so happy to see you winning, Deborah. I am so excited about you thriving, being international, seeing your dream. She's a school teacher. So she went through certification while she was teaching school. And so, Deborah, I just wish you all the best in all that you do. I wish you all the best. And thank you for appreciating my transparency. You know, one of the things that I tell people, I'm not the coach that has it all together. I'm the coach that is connected to the God who gets it all together. And I want my brand to be known for being bold, for being transparent, and for being authentic. So I can't hide behind the screen and play like, oh, my life is just daisies and roses. Because life is never that. The only people who don't have problems are dead people. And so when you begin to move forward in your businesses, in your careers, in all of those places, be authentically who God created you to be. Be authentically who God created you to be before life happened to you. And if you would like someone to come alongside you and help you break through the barriers, create a workplace exit strategy, or become a certified life coach, I ask you to go to breakthroughforlife.com right now and schedule a free discovery call. Now, free discovery calls are going away in the upcoming 30 days, because I'm about to switch them to breakthrough sessions. And I'm literally going to do, with every discovery call, they're going to go from being a 45-minute discovery call to a 75-minute breakthrough session. And that breakthrough session is going to be 45-minute discovery call and 30-minute mini coaching session. But that's a little bit down the line. Right now, I'm doing discovery calls. So schedule a free discovery call so that we can craft a custom coaching journey to help you win at life in every area of life. Or you can call 855-923-LIFE 5433 and we can chat, but I'm still going to send you to my website for you to schedule that free discovery call. And we're going to get together and build a custom coaching journey that I guarantee the results of, so that you can win at life from the bedroom to the boardroom. This is Coach BU, the Breakthrough Strategist, signing off. Peace and love. Bye-bye.